Amy Behr-Shields is the director of the Summit Free Public Library. And for those of you that haven't been to your library recently, or don't have a library card, or have never been to your local library, you're going to find out that you're missing a lot. And also, I would add that Amy happens to be a first-rate, nationally ranked athlete, and maybe she'll even tell you about it. Amy.
All right. Wonderful. So hello, welcome. My name's Amy Behr-Shields, and I'm the director of the Summit Free Public Library. I'm honored to be here with you today to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics. It may not be brain surgery, but it is the value of libraries in the world today. But first, a little bit about me. Okay, so I have been the director in Summit for just about 2 years, since April of 2022. Prior to that, I worked in administration for Somerset County Library System. My undergraduate degrees are in Spanish, political science, and criminology, which tells you that I did not know what I wanted to do with life when I was in college. I, of course, have my master's now in library and information science, and I'm also a certified professional with the Society of Human Resources Management. On a personal level, I grew up in Union County. I have lived in Cranford, Westfield, Clark, and Scotch Plains. I joke with Jim all the time that I'm working my way up to Summit. But I have, as I mentioned, an almost 3-year-old, and I actually have one on the way, due in July. And my husband, thank you, very kind, thank you. My husband and I are avid travelers, and we are avid fans of the New York Times crossword puzzle. So if anyone does the daily crossword, I'd love to talk to you about it. So when Jim first approached me today about speaking with you, he proposed the following question: is the library an anachronism in a digital world? He then went on to ask, are today's libraries largely archival repositories when almost all information can be accessed digitally? In other words, what good is a library today? So the answers, no, and a lot of good. And with that, I end my presentation. No, I can't. Kidding, of course. But before I dive into what libraries are today and where our libraries are headed in the future, I think it's important to appreciate where our libraries, and specifically our library, has come from. You may be aware that this year, 2024, the Summit Free Public Library is celebrating 150 years of serving the community. So to commemorate this milestone, we have a short, it's about 9 minutes, so bear with me, video that's going to touch upon the library's rich history. So I'm going to share that video with you now. Nestled in the heart of Summit, New Jersey, the Summit Free Public Library has been a cornerstone of learning, inspiration, and connection for the residents of this vibrant community for 150 years. Hello, my name is Amy Behr-Shields, and I am the director of the Summit Free Public Library. Join us as we explore the rich history of the library and how it has grown from its humble beginnings in a rented room to the modern, multifaceted institution it is today. In 1873, long before Summit had a public library, there was an organization of women who delighted in reading and sharing books together. Let's picture a meeting of the Ladies' Book Club of Summit under the leadership of their gifted president, Miss Joanna Matthews, and author of children's books. They enjoyed keeping up with the latest novels and classics, and at one of their meetings, the suggestion was made that Summit might be ready for a circulating library. A group of citizens met in December 1873, and on January 10, 1874, they formed the Summit Library Association. The first board of trustees was headed by William Z. Larned and included several members of the Ladies' Book Club, their husbands, and Jonathan Bunnell, son of Crane Bunnell, who originally acquired most of the property in Summit before it was founded and persuaded the Morris and Essex Railroad to pass through the area. The books were first kept in Dr. William Risk's small frame house on Springfield Avenue. At that time, Dr. Risk was the only physician in Summit. The library was first open for only 2 hours each Saturday afternoon. In 1878, the library moved across the street to the new school building, which later became Summit City Hall. At this time, responsible persons who were not stockholders were allowed to pay 15 cents a week to borrow a book. In its first 4 years, the library collected over 700 volumes. The first building was completed in April 1891. This building is now home to the Summit Playhouse, one of the oldest continuously operating community theaters in the United States. In 1893, the trustees announced that the library would be a free public library open to all residents, and in 1901, the library became a tax-supported municipal building operating under the New Jersey Library Statutes. Notable figures gave readings and lectures at the library, including Francis Hopkinson Smith, who designed the foundation of the Statue of Liberty, and Henry Van Dyke, who was later United States Ambassador to Luxembourg. Both of them were also authors who wrote dozens of short stories, novels, and travelogues. In 1907, 2 of the Soong sisters, among the most significant political figures in China in the early 20th century, came to Summit for school just across from the library at the Miss Clara Barton Potwin School. Summit's first professionally trained librarian, Louise Morris, said, "The library was evidently a great boon to the Soong sisters. Ching Ling was a great reader. Mei Ling's book selection ranged from Peter Rabbit to Dickens, but chiefly she just loved to just drop in to see what I was doing." In 1942, Mei Ling, then known as Madame Chiang Kai-shek, First Lady of the Republic of China, wrote a telegram which was read at the Summit dinner for United China Relief stating, "To all good Summit people, including my schoolmates at Miss Potwin's, with whom I skated, picnicked, and cut paper dolls, I sent affectionate and wistful greetings." Under the influence of civic-minded leaders, it was decided that a larger library should be built in a more central location. The Summit Homeland Company, representing the Bunnell family, donated a piece of land 2 blocks from the railroad station. Andrew Carnegie offered $16,000 for a new library building, which was later raised to $21,000 through one of Carnegie's personal friends, Summit resident William Lyle. The building dedication occurred on May 30th, 1911. The impressive interior featured a bright, spacious dome, a large central desk, and book stacks with tall windows. Story hour for little children became a regular feature of the library's work, a tradition which has since continued at the Summit Library for over 100 years. And the original plaque from the Carnegie Building still stands outside the library today. In the early 1960s, the library faced a challenge that was similar to the one it encountered during the construction of the Carnegie Library, a lack of space to accommodate its rapidly growing collection. It became evident that the Summit Library needed a new home. In 1961, 400 dedicated townspeople enrolled as members of the Committee for a New Summit Library. This committee worked tirelessly to convince the local council to approve a bond issue for the new library. After 2 years of advocacy, the council approved the bond issue on January 19, 1961. The original committee disbanded, and its members formed a permanent group called Friends of the Summit Library. Construction of the new library was completed in January 1964, and the staff, under the leadership of then-director Miss Jane Scott McClure, grew to 17 full-time employees. The dedication ceremony took place on May 2nd, 1965, with 2 cherry blossom trees in full bloom, which had grown up in front of the Carnegie Library. In the following decades, the Summit Library became a vibrant community hub, hosting numerous events such as school-related visits, film showings, magician performances, preschool story hours, and puppet shows. Patients from Overlook Hospital visited the library annually to enjoy morning coffee and view exhibits showcasing their work in arts and crafts. As technology evolved, the library embraced new resources, including microfilm readers in the 1960s, computer terminals in the 1980s, and eventually offering public access to the internet in the 1990s. CDs and videos were added to the collection, and patrons could search the card catalog by computer. In 1996, under director Glenn Devitt, there was a capital campaign to raise funds for an expansion and renovation of the library. $1.3 million was raised, in part with a community production of The Music Man. Construction began in October of 1997. The library building reopened in March of 1999. In 2013, under director Susan Permahos, the library embraced the digital age. During her tenure, the library's expanded patrons access to ebooks, e-audiobooks, and online databases, and offered streaming services and virtual events. The Youth Services Room was renovated, and popular new programs were added, such as concerts in the Rotunda and the Explore Your World lecture series. In the 21st century, the Summit Free Public Library has continued to innovate and expand its services, collaborating with local schools, businesses, and organizations. The library has become a hub for cultural and educational events, such as art classes, craft workshops, author talks, Lunar New Year celebrations, and much more. For 150 years, the Summit Free Public Library has stood as a testament to the power of knowledge and the importance of community, and has evolved to meet the ever-changing needs of patrons. The library has remained a constant source of inspiration, learning, and connection for generations of Summit residents. As we look to the future, the Summit Free Public Library will undoubtedly continue to evolve and adapt, embracing new challenges and opportunities. But one thing remains certain: the library will have an unwavering commitment to provide the people of Summit and neighboring communities with excellent resources, programs, services, and of course, books. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the library's history as we celebrate a cherished institution that has informed, enriched, and inspired the lives of so many. Thank you. I'll let you all know when Hollywood comes calling for me. So if there's one thing we can take away from this video, it's that there are core services that have been provided by libraries since their inception that we still provide today, that are still important and needed, and are pillars of our field and our institution. So let's take a moment to look at what those core services are. Number one, literacy. So we've, of course, always encouraged literacy, children and people of all ages to spend a significant amount of time with books. We provide literacy resources to assist with proficiency in reading for all ages, thereby supporting a reading culture, the creation of a literate society, and facilitating intergenerational and family learning. Two, information. Libraries have always provided access to information through materials lending, research services, events, classes, workshops, and the preservation of heritage through historical materials. Three, connections. Libraries have always been a space for the community. They connect people to information, and they connect people to people. Libraries promote and encourage interactions amongst individuals to those outside their typical in-group through our diverse programming, through community conversations, and through the ability to visit other cultural institutions. Four, learning. Libraries have always had an educational role promoting and supporting lifelong learning through our materials, and we're essential for supplemental education for job hunters, families on a budget, kids needing help with school, and much more. And finally, technology. Public libraries have long been leaders in bringing people into the digital world, providing programs, services, and assistance that help people gain knowledge, access, and increase productivity and engagement with others. So, bonus points if anyone can tell me what this image is from. What movie? Of a librarian. Very good, Joel. Excellent. It's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusader. The other image is of the Summit Free Public Library's mobile app. And this is an absolute shameless plug that letting you know that our free app is accessible via iOS and Android, and that you can access your account. You can have a digital library card on your phone. You can search our catalog. You can register for upcoming events, programs, access our digital resources, self-check out the materials from inside the library, and much, much more. But you know all of that. So let's talk about how libraries have been reinventing themselves for well over a decade as the emergence of smartphones and ubiquitous connectivity has put access to information into nearly everybody's hands. No longer just repositories of information, libraries have morphed into community spaces that aim to meet a wide variety of civic, social, technological, and literary needs. And the pandemic really accelerated these changes. It transformed how libraries are designed and interact with our stakeholders. It exposed troubling gaps in families' access to technology, and it created new demands within communities. So in response, libraries are engaging with our patrons much differently while serving them in creative new ways. For instance, libraries are and continue to add collections and services online, and we're transforming our buildings into collaborative learning spaces. So we're no longer just places for just borrowing books. We're places for checking out wireless hotspots or power washers. Yes, the Summit Free Public Library has power washers that you can check out on your library card, and much, much more. They've become new arenas for making and coding, for investing, for learning new languages, and for job market reentry. We're emerging from the pandemic stronger and more resilient and more dispensable to communities than ever before. So with that, I'd like to discuss 4 ways that libraries are vital to communities in modern times. So libraries are trusted sources for valid information. In a world of continuously proliferating sources of information, finding and recognizing reliable information has become harder than ever before. Misinformation is rampant, particularly online, with the rise of social media, user-generated content databases, fuzzy facts, and false narratives. When BBC Future Now interviewed a panel of 50 experts back in 2017 about the grand challenges that we face in the 21st century, many named the breakdown of trusted information sources as one of the most pressing problems facing society. Diving deeper into this, the Urban Libraries Council found that in recent years, just 20% of Americans say they trust the government, which is down from 44% in 1984. A broader measure of trust in a number of institutions, such as banks, schools, and businesses, shows that 35% of Americans trust institutions, down from 43% in the early 2000s. Exceptions to these patterns are libraries. Nearly 4 in 5 Americans, or about 78%, trust libraries or librarians as sources of news and of information, far outpacing other sources of media. And so libraries are in a very unique position to offer a safe haven for people to learn. But for libraries, our work's not just about providing trustworthy materials, but also about educating our users how to discern credible information sources from dubious ones. In fact, it's very important for people to know how to vet the vetted. So when a librarian assists, we're focused on information literacy and telling truth from false, legitimate from illegitimate, and understanding where that information is coming from. In fact, this is such an important issue that Governor Phil Murphy signed a bill into law on January 5th, 2023, that required information literacy to be on the curriculum for all K-12 students. And who has a major role in that education? Libraries and librarians. Murphy noted that disinformation is eroding the role of truth in our political and our civic discourse. He said, it's our responsibility to ensure our nation's future leaders are equipped with the tools necessary to identify fact from fiction. So overall, libraries are valuable sources of information due to our credibility, our diversity, our depth, our access to experts, and our preservation of historical context. So what does this look like at the Summit Free Public Library? Well, when you access information from our library, you can know that the resources were selected by trained professionals, all of whom have their master's degree, who use their training, their knowledge, their expertise to vet materials so that our community is offered information that's accurate, that's genuine, and represents a broad scope of opinion. In fact, our collection policy ensures that we take into consideration reputation and qualifications of the author, the publishers, or the producer, with preference given to titles vetted in the publishing industry with at least one positive professional review. 2, in an increasingly polarized world, libraries are safe spaces for connecting with community members, learning, and for civic discussion. So in 2000, political scientist Robert Putnam noted that Americans are, quote, bowling alone. We simply have too few opportunities that expose us to people with different viewpoints that engage us in authentic dialogue about pressing problems. This has only gotten worse with the rise of social media and digital resources that allow us to continuously narrow our worldview and who we interact with. So where can people go to informally discuss local, national, and global problems? Where can people go to become educated on these topics so that they can make their own decisions and engage in the decision-making process so as not to feel unrepresented and voiceless? As community anchor institutions, libraries are a key part of civic life. Again, the Urban Libraries Council found that about 3/4, or roughly 73% of the public, say libraries help to promote a sense of community. And fostering civic engagement is a very high priority. So the public library movement in the 1840s and 50s was driven in part by the idea that the United States needed to have an informed citizenry to maintain its democratic form of government. Citizens increasingly have to acquire the knowledge necessary to sort through information necessary to make civic decisions. So what's the role of libraries in this? It's not to advocate, it's not to judge. Instead, libraries provide context, information, and a forum to address big issues knowledgeably and constructively, in discussions guided by known experts on the topics. So libraries are getting a grasp on this by offering neutral spaces, offering a wide array of materials to grasp critical thinking, and by offering community conversations around timely, relevant, and hot topic issues. These conversations are mediated discussions that help community members better understand issues of importance and make people better aware of the resources around them. They inspire creative thinking in response to new problems, and they help forge new relationships, help people learn new things and develop new skills. They foster inclusion and respect for diversity, and they can springboard a community into action. In other words, they're essential to community growth. So what does this look like at the Summit Free Public Library? Beyond offering a wide array of materials to learn from, we offer a number of programs, such as our Great Decisions program. Great Decisions is America's largest discussion program on world affairs. So groups read materials and then come together to discuss. Our trained staff also work hard to bring supplemental lecturers to these programs to provide an even deeper understanding of an issue to our community. We also offer what we call the Explore Your World program, where we bring professors in from around the state for 4 to 6 week sessions. And they discuss a wide variety of topics, everything from the fun of Beatles music to focusing on leaders of the American Revolution to Shakespeare. 3, in a world where we need more than just reading, libraries are expanding to other forms of literacy. So libraries have always been focused on literacy, the ability to read and write and interact, for years. And it's a very important service, of course, that we provide to patrons and to our community. But people need to be literate in order to be involved and contribute to society. Times are changing, technologies are rapidly evolving, and it's no longer enough to focus on the ability to read and write alone. We now need to focus on ensuring all people are transliterate or have the ability to be literate across a range of platforms, tools, and more. So libraries are more than a place to read, conduct research, or complete assignments. They house more than shelves and multimedia devices. And as a field, we envision a space where everyone knows how to use online resources and current technology to better improve their education, to enhance their job skills, to fully participate in a digital society, and overall enhance their way of life and educate the public to survive in today's world. This goes beyond basic reading and writing and language literacy. So what does this look like at the Summit Free Public Library? Well, we focus on digital literacy. We are now established as a North Star Digital Literacy location. North Star Digital Literacy is a free resource to help you build and certify your computer skills at your own pace. Think of Rosetta Stone, but for computers. Digital literacy means that you have the skills that you need to perform tasks on computers and online. There's no library card required to access this service, and North Star provides a curricula, individual online learning, and online assessment in 3 main areas: essential computer skills, essential software skills, and using technology to accomplish tasks. You can access North Star Digital Online Learning from a library computer or from home, and we have trained librarians on staff who are available by appointment to assist anyone who may need it. We're also focused on nutritional and health literacy. So the Summit Free Public Library is now home to the Wilson White Learning Garden, just outside the library along Morris Avenue. The new Learning Garden provides an opportunity for young students to learn firsthand how to cultivate a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. And elementary students can join our weekly Little Sprouts Garden Club to dig, plant, and maintain the garden beds. And they even are culinary experts at the end. They use the produce to create fabulous dishes that the staff get to enjoy. So these garden beds were actually created as part of an Eagle Scout by Anderson Lee, and the funding was provided by a bequest, the Wilson White bequest. The library also partners with Overlook Medical Center to offer health literacy totes for checkout. So these are bags packed with information on specific health topics, including Alzheimer's, arthritis, bereavement and grief, heart health, and much more. We're also focusing on financial literacy. We now offer Value Line Research Center online. This provides accurate and insightful investment information research on companies, industries, markets, and economies, and it can be easily accessed from the comfort of your own home just by adding in your library card number. And finally, libraries are places of equity, which is central to the practice of intellectual freedom. Equity takes difference into account to ensure that a fair process and a fair outcome. Equity recognizes that some groups are disadvantaged in accessing opportunities, and libraries play a key role in ameliorating those conditions. Overall, libraries provide services to a diverse range of users in our communities that are not only inclusive, but also help connect others to potentially new or additional information that they might not have accessed through other community-focused organizations. Libraries provide services that expand opportunities for underrepresented communities to participate in the learning environments of their communities. Libraries are perfect spaces to create a culturally responsive learning environment. So what does this look like at the Summit Free Public Library? To start, as of September 14th, 2022, the Summit Free Public Library stopped charging late fines on most of our circulating materials. In 2019, the American Library Association passed a resolution that asserted that fines are a barrier to equitable access and encouraged libraries to eliminate them. Since then, many libraries in New Jersey and across the country have adopted these fine-free policies. Now, there are, of course, exceptions to these fine-free policies. Lost and damaged items and items from certain collections still accrue fines and need to be paid for, but people are still responsible for returning items by their due date so that they can be shared with others in the community. But ultimately, our goal is to welcome the community into an environment of lifelong learning. We also provide access to diverse materials. We're focused on having a very balanced collection of materials, representing a wide variety of thoughts, of opinions, of backgrounds, and of formats. We have materials in over 8 languages for both children and adults. We have items in large print, most recently adding the New York Times. And we provide access to these resources and materials physically as well as digitally so that you can access them in the building from the comfort of your own home or on your commute. We provide access to technology and digital resources, computer assistance, access to Microsoft Office and different hardwares. We have free Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi hotspots that you can check out. We have desktops and laptops available for in-library use. We have printers, 3D printers, scanners, fax machines, and more. We also provide access to cultural institutions. So funded by the Friends of the Library, patrons of our library can check out museum passes to over 20 different museums in the area, including the American Museum of Natural History, Battleship New Jersey, the Guggenheim, MoMA, the Met, Imagine That, and the Turtleback Zoo. We provide access to a library of things, also funded by our Friends of the Library. Our Library of Things provides access to a myriad of items that might otherwise be a challenge for people financially or spatially. Popular things include power washers, telescopes, microscopes, robotics, and even an outdoor movie projector set. And finally, we provide access to hybrid programming. So many of our programs take place in person, many online, and many both. And this just allows people who may have to stay home due to scheduling conflicts, a disability, travel issues, etc., to still attend and learn from a library program. And for in-person programs, we have the added benefit of providing hearing-assisted devices to those in need. So what do these 4 things, trusted information, civic discussion, literacy, and equity, have in common? They demonstrate that libraries help to cultivate social capital. That is, the resources that help people connect to one another, connect to their communities, and find information that helps them get by and enables them to build bridges to others. So we just looked at 4 concrete ways that our library and libraries in general are doing just that. So while libraries have found their current niche within the community, it doesn't mean that we're stopping there. We're constantly looking for new ways to evolve and better serve our patrons and our residents. So to that end, I thought I'd mention a few ways that Summit Free Public Library is evolving to meet the needs of the community in the modern world with innovative products, services, and designs. So the first is Talpa Search. So yes, libraries are keeping up with the world of AI, but you can be sure that our AI is a little bit more trusted than the AI you hear about in the news. So Talpa combines so-called AI with authoritative book data. Quick aside, does anyone know what the Latin word Talpa means? Mole. So fun fact there. But Talpa uses AI technology in 2 ways. So first, Talpa queries large language models from both Anthropic and OpenAI for books and other media, and then it validates every item against true and authoritative bibliographic data. Second, Talpa uses the natural language abilities of large language models to parse and understand queries, which are then answered with traditional library data. So you could type in a search for novels about World War II France, and then it would tap into the subjects, tags, and character data from a cataloging service that we use called LibraryThing. Unlike chatting with large language models directly, Talpa doesn't hallucinate books that don't exist. Everything is checked against a massive storehouse of true and authoritative bibliographic data. And surprisingly, perhaps, Talpa's ability to find books by their cover isn't powered by AI at all, but by the effort of thousands of book lovers who have played LibraryThing's cover guest tagging game since 2010. Talpa also has the added benefit of working on our library's holdings. So items in our library's collection are given precedence in your search results. So if you search for a book through Talpa AI, it will also tell you if it is available and where it's located at the Summit Free Public Library. So one of my favorite books is The Little Prince. So let's pretend for a moment that I'm having pregnancy brain and I cannot remember for the life of me the name of that book. But I remember that it has a blue cover, the moon, and a little boy. I can type into Talpa book with blue cover, moon, and little boy, and voila, it'll bring up The Little Prince as the top search result. Very cool. So the library is also in the process of installing a natural gas powered generator that will enable us to have major electrical, heating, and cooling systems to run in the case of a power outage, thereby providing the community access to Wi-Fi, public computers, library materials, and programs, and of course, to remain in a warm or cool, comfortable, welcoming, and safe environment. This has the added benefit to further serve our community by allowing the library to be incorporated into the city's emergency plan. And I'm happy to say that this project was funded in part by a grant awarded to the library under the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act. Libraries also have a responsibility to preserve, conserve, and if possible, restore our local history and local genealogical materials. We work tirelessly to safeguard these materials against damage, decay, and loss, and we use digitization and other preservation methods to ensure their longevity. So to that end, we have begun a long-term project at the Summit Free Public Library to digitize our aging historical materials and preserve them for future generations. So to date, we've digitized all Summit High School yearbooks. Any graduates of the class of 1962 by any chance? No. We've also begun the process of digitizing the Summit Independent Press. So in this fun photo here, you can see then Summit Police Chief Mario Formicella with McGruff the police dog. And does anyone recognize that patrolman in the front? That's Steve Zagorski. So current police chief. So and Patrolman John Dougherty. So I encourage everyone to explore all of the historical offerings that we offer through our digitization. So pushing the library beyond the physical building. With all of this, the library as a physical building still stands and is an ever needed presence in our community. But the library is now also a concept that exists outside of the four walls. So a few digital resources and outside the building resources that I think worth mentioning are Libby. You may know it as its previous name of Overdrive. It's a free app where you can access ebooks, digital audiobooks, and magazines. You can stream titles with Wi-Fi or data, or you can download them for use to read anywhere, anytime. We also offer Hoopla, which is access to movies, TV, music, books, audiobooks, comics, and graphic novels. And again, it can be downloaded or accessed offline or by connecting to the internet and streaming. We also offer Canopy, which is a video streaming service for quality and thoughtful entertainment. It includes movies, documentaries, think PBS, BBC, things of that nature, award-winning, Oscar-winning films. And we have, you can see in the top left, created and installed by an Eagle Scout, Jeremy Betts. Our story walk features a full-length picture book on 20 signs around the library's lawn. And families can follow our stone path to read an illustrated book together while spending time outdoors. And finally, we have the Summit Library Book Bike, which was generously funded by the Summit Library Foundation. It's an innovative mobile library that offers a unique way for people of all ages to access popular books, library service, and technology at various community events around Summit. So we've already been to the Summit Farmers Market, Summit Downtown Family Fun Night, National Night Out, and a few schools on our book bike. So today we touched on some of the offerings at the Summit Free Public Library that have made an impact on the community. During the remainder of 2024, we'll continue trying to optimize our spaces, enhance our resources and technology, increase connections and awareness, and address our internal procedures in order to best serve you and provide the greatest value to our community. This year, we're also engaging in a new strategic planning process. Our goal is to develop a new plan that's worthy of our diverse community through a process that seeks to elevate the voices and ideas of everyone. In the coming weeks, we'll be reaching out to everyone, asking all community members to participate in a feedback survey or in a community focus group so that we can ensure we create a plan that reflects our community members and prepares us for the future. So the role of libraries, as we've learned, has changed over time. In the past, libraries were primarily places to find and house information. Today, they're a lot more than that. After today, I hope you all agree that libraries play a valuable role in the digital age, whether it's providing access to information and resourcing, providing space, promoting literacy and lifelong learning, or acting as a community hub where people can come together. So with that, if you ever have questions, feedback about our library, or just want to chat more about the value of libraries, I hope you'll reach out to me, and I open it to any questions.
If anyone wishes to ask a question, please come forward and sit here.
Sorry about that. We have many non-Summit residents here. What is their access to the Summit Library?
Absolutely.
Number two, can you talk a little bit about the databases? That seems to be a really important part that people can search databases and retrieve information from databases. And last one I want to touch on, suppose there was a guy who had a big collection of Civil War, other war documents, and his wife really didn't want to get stuck with them. If you have any thoughts on that, I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, so first for access to other libraries. So libraries in Union County and surrounding counties are actually very intertwined. You may have heard the term library consortium. So there are multiple libraries that are interconnected through multiple ways. So if you're from a different community and you want to access materials from the Summit Free Public Library, we are part of something called LUC, which is the Library of Union Counties Consortium, which means that if you are from any township in Union County, you can come to Summit Free Public Library. We will give your hometown library a call just to make sure that you're a patron in good standing. And then after that one quick use, you will be set up to access materials from the Summit Free Public Library. There are a few restrictions on that. So for example, our museum passes are dedicated to Summit residents only, but the majority of materials inside the building, you'll be able to check out. We also have reciprocal agreements. One is called MUF, and that allows us to have these reciprocal borrowing agreements with other towns, such as I know a few people said they were from Morristown, or other surrounding communities. So if you're not sure if your community can have reciprocal borrowing with Summit, please reach out to us and we'll be sure to let you know. In terms of the second question was, can I talk a little bit more about our databases? I can, but there are about over 100 of them. So we could be here all day, but we have databases for practically everything. And we're always looking to add new databases. We have databases dedicated to artists and crafting. We have databases dedicated to job assistance and career assistance. We have databases dedicated to helping you find the next book based on books that you've recently read. We have databases dedicated to medical information, to investment, to a whole array of things. So again, if there's something that you think you might need assistance with, check the library, come talk to one of our librarians, and we might be able to just help you find that information for free. And finally, if you have historical materials that you're interested in donating, reach out to me directly, and depending on the type of material, we would be interested in potentially acquiring that and adding it to our collection to eventually digitize as well. Or we could probably connect you with someone who is interested in that information if it doesn't fit our needs.
Thank you so much. This was really wonderful. And you are changing the image we have of the old librarians. You remember that? It's nice to know that we have a librarian who can do cartwheels and flips. That's pretty nice. If you ever think of going to the Summit Library and spend 5 minutes there, forget it. You can stop by the puzzle. They have a 20,000 piece puzzle. And you can already spend a lot of time there. It's a lot of fun. And now I know where to borrow my power wash. My question is, when I see the library around 3:10, 10 minutes by 3 in the afternoon, there are always a slew of kids that come from the middle school. And can you tell us what do they do? Do they socialize? Do they go to talk to their friends? Do they go to do their homework, to research, or all the above? Thank you.
So we are blessed to be within walking distance from the Summit Middle School. And at about exactly 3:02 every day, we are inundated with middle school students who come to use the library. And so the question was, what do they do when they're at the library? They do a little bit of everything. I mean, we have those who come to meet their tutors at the library. We have those who come to get their homework done at the library. We have a program that we call CATS, which was named by the students and stands for Cool, Awesome Teen Students of Summit. And every day there's a different type of activity for them that's happening. Everything from, the ability to check out and watch a movie to every Wednesday, we provide them with volunteer hours, which is part of a requirement for them at school. We also have a few who like to test the waters and push the buttons of the staff. And so we have a few of those who are a lot of fun for us too. But mainly they come to the library because the librarians are a friendly face for them. It's a welcome place for them. It's a building where there is plenty of opportunity and things for them to do. There's no expectation of them purchasing anything. They can just come there and be and exist. And we've had tons of adult patrons who come back who tell us, I gave the librarians a really hard time when I was a middle school student and Summit, and I just want to say thank you and apologize. So, it's a blessing and we love having them there. I will say, if you're ever interested in seeing the library when it is ultimately quiet, come in January during midterms week. You will not be able to find a seat in the house, and every student is focused on a book, and it's a thing of beauty to see them all studying so hard. So thank you for your question.
Amy, thank you for a wonderful presentation and for the wonderful work that you are doing. I used to go to the library more when I was living closer to it, and I haven't been there for a while, I confess, but I'm inspired to start coming back. But I used to like to hang out. It's a wonderful place to hang out. It's relatively quiet, sometimes very quiet. And you don't have to be reading a book. I could read newspapers. You subscribe, I think, to several newspapers, and not just the current issues. You can look at older issues if you want. You could tell us which ones you subscribe to. There used to be, and is there still, a large collection of CDs that you can check out, including all kinds of classical music, which I'm interested in, but probably a lot of other stuff too. And there were even DVDs of movies. A lot of stuff is online now, so maybe there isn't that much need for it. There's a big bulletin board as you walk in where Old Guard could put its flyers and get people interested in coming to our meetings, right? That's still there. So, and I used to also, and I wonder if this is true still, you talk about lending between libraries in Union County, but I used to do interlibrary loans of music scores because I'm interested in music. And I think they came from the big music library in Newark. So is that still available? Yeah, great.
So there's a number of things that you can do in the library if you just want to spend time in the library. To his point, we have numerous magazines and newspapers. We actually recently expanded that collection to have more of a global focus. So now if you come in, you can find magazines from France, from India, from Germany, which are all quite popular in our community. We do also have a giant puzzle that people come and spend hours just passing time trying to figure out. You can also peruse. We have a new In partnership with the Summit Environmental Commission, we have a native seed library where you can take native seed packets home and plant them in your own gardens. So there's a lot going on around the library, and you're also welcome to just kind of sit and pass the time and peruse our shelves. We have hundreds upon hundreds of DVDs, which, you know, many say is a passing, dying media. Based on the circulation statistics of our DVD collection, I will tell you that that is not quite the case yet. CDs, a little bit more, are starting to be on their way out, but we do still have a very popular CD collection. And I can tell you that the residents of Summit are very interested in classical music, jazz music, and pop music. So we tend to kind of focus on those things with our CD collection. And there was one more bit to that question, I think. Did I answer it all? Interlibrary loan. Yes. So interlibrary loan. Yes. Interlibrary loan is always available. So if there is something that our library does not have and either cannot or does not have the space to purchase in our collection, we can't find it at another library in Union County or a space where we have reciprocal borrowing, we do have the ability to do interlibrary loan. And we can get an item from anywhere in the state or anywhere in the country. So if there's something that's a little more unique and rare, we're able to access it through a database where we search for it through other libraries that may have it. And we're even able to pull things from the Library of Congress. So, you know, if you can't find it, chances are we will be able to get it into your hands one way or another.
Thank you. This has been very informative. When I was a kid in New York City, I used to go to the public library, and it was staffed entirely by women who had a pencil behind their ear like this. And those days are over. But in those days, your book that you took out had a little card, and your name would be on there because you took it out. I mean, they would keep the card until you returned the book. So when you borrowed a book, other people, you could see who had borrowed it before because the little card was in there if you bothered to look at it. Now, nowadays, we expect our library borrowings to be private. So I want to ask you about privacy. You started off talking about trust. People trust the library. So in order to, these days, in order to trust the library, you want to feel that what you borrow from it is between you and the library, and it's nobody else's business. So I'd like you to speak to that and tell us how you protect that information. And since you use the services of outside vendors, how much do you supervise how they protect the information? And I'm thinking of ebooks. And I'm also thinking about, obviously you keep a record when people borrow a book, but does that record eventually get purged or anonymized? So thank you.
So privacy is a huge focus of libraries. In fact, there is a law around privacy in libraries, and it deals with the confidentiality of library records. So that's everything from what you check out to what you look up on our computers to, you know, how you spend your time in our building. So in terms of, you know, your library record and what you've read, we have the option for you to opt in to keep a track of everything you've ever checked out on your account. Some people like that because they like to go back and look through what they have read in the past. That being said, if you don't opt into that, The moment you check an item back in, it's immediately wiped from your account and there will be no record of you having ever borrowed it. Same thing when you use a computer in the library. We have a software called Deep Freeze installed on all of our computers. So the moment a person logs out of the library, the entire search history is completely wiped and cannot be found. The only way that we're able to provide information to, say, the police about what is on your library account is if you specifically request that we give it to them, or they come forward with a subpoena for the library record. So we take privacy incredibly seriously. And this also goes forward with the different vendors that we work with. At most, the information that they'll have on file for you is your name and your library card number. All other personal information is hosted by us on our servers that we have at the library. We are not at this moment cloud-based in any way, shape, or form. So you can be sure that any of your personal information or any of the materials that you checked out cannot be traced by anyone.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. I've been a fan of libraries ever since I was a little toddler. I am amazed at how technologically literate libraries and librarians have become. You mentioned that artificial intelligence, large language models, and truthfulness were two of your interests and important topics. How do you make sure that LLMs are dispensing the truth?
Can you repeat that? How do we make sure that what?
That these AI systems are dispensing accurate, truthful information.
Right.
The technology community is struggling with this.
Right. So part of the process in using AI is that everything is vetted against true bibliographic authoritative data through another library database. So anything that might appear as a hallucination through the AI would then be, wiped from the map because it cannot be counter-checked. So, we have the added ability to counter-check what is coming out of the AI before it comes through you through the AI service that we're using. So that's the main way we're doing it. This is the only endeavor that we've had into AI so far. So, the fact that there are multiple checks throughout the path before it reaches the community members search allows us to be certain that what is coming to you is truthful information.
Okay, thank you for a good talk. I'd like to mention, I read Le Petit Prince in its entirety in the 8th grade or 9th grade, I think. So I'm familiar with that book. I have some questions I want you to elaborate on that were asked before, but so I'm part of the Morris County library system, and I regularly go to Morris County Library, and they have a fairly comprehensive set similar to Summit, but I think there's still a few things that Summit has beyond that. So like, for instance, you mentioned physical devices like microscopes and other stuff. Is it possible for me to take them out? And another question I have is, when I was taking courses at Rutgers, they have, vast databases of peer-reviewed research articles in medicine, physics, math, engineering, and are these databases that you have? And a third thing, one time I was in the Fairlawn Library, New Jersey, and I happened to look at some books, and apparently the students had cut out all the images to put into book reports for, for like, the medieval ages and things like that. And I've actually not seen that in any other library. I was wondering if Summit had a problem like that?
Amy, who just wants the power washer?
Everybody wants the power washer. So I will say that our library of things for right now is for Summit residents only. That being said, you can get a paid library card membership through Summit, which is an annual fee. And if you do have that library card, you then are able to access a few of the things that we have that are for Summit residents only. That being said, if anybody's home library is interested in starting a library of things, I'd be happy to talk to their library director about what that process looked like. I will say, though, that we are very lucky to have the benefit of having a very successful Friends of the Library group that pays for every single item in our library of things so that we do not need to use taxpayer dollars in order to supplement this collection at all. In terms of databases that with peer-reviewed research, absolutely. We have a whole array of databases through EBSCO, ProQuest, things like that, everything is peer-reviewed articles and research that you can look up. And the last question. Oh, sorry. Okay. About kids ripping things out of books. That's what it was. I'm happy to say that generally speaking, our students are incredibly well behaved in Summit. So no, that's not a problem that we encounter. I've worked at libraries where, you know, rolls of toilet paper get flushed down the toilets every day, things of that nature. But luckily, you know, here that isn't a problem that we've encountered yet, knock on wood.
I need to thank our speaker, who is a wonderful speaker and a great Q&A person. Why don't we come and thank our speaker?
So Amy, that was fantastic. And I've been a trustee of the Summit Free Public Library for 9 or 10 years. And I learned a few things today also. We have just a certificate of appreciation.
Thank you.
And thank you for a wonderful presentation. And let's show our first lead.